Well, hey there, guys. I hope you all are doing amazingly well. So, something pretty exciting happened to me just a few days ago. And if you aren't following me on social media, you wouldn't know that I actually got the amazing opportunity to travel down to Orlando and visit the awesome Star Wars celebration. As some of you may know, I'm actually a pretty big Star Wars fan. I have never actually gotten the chance to go to any type of convention before, but I tell you what, guys, I had an amazing time and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm not so sure I've ever seen so many people in one place all at once. Unfortunately, I'm sure some of you guys may have heard that the line situation on Thursday of celebration was honestly kind of a mess. Like I said, this was my first convention experience ever, so I really didn't know what to expect. And waiting in line for almost 3 hours, I'll be honest, it was a bit of a downer, but after making it into the convention, that feeling quickly went away. One of the good things about waiting in line for so long was getting to see some of the pretty awesome cosplay that passed by as I was in line. And she took so many pictures with everybody. Her costume was fantastic.
Definitely gonna have to.
So at this point, we were already running a couple hours late. We didn't plan this well at all. But we knew once we got into the building, we needed to hightail it towards the Galaxy stage and catch at least the last few minutes of the 40th anniversary event. We were already a couple hours late at this point, so I knew it was almost ending. But once I made it through the door, I was greeted by a pretty nice surprise. And it was at this point that John Williams decided to bring the house down. The panel that I knew that I needed to make it to, following up that, was the animated panel hosted by Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo, but I didn't know specifically what they were going to mention. But it was great getting to see some of their insight into working in the Star Wars animated space for almost a decade now.
No, because we only have so much time for the panel, so he goes on. Maul. He's a talker. No one knew from that first movie.
Yeah, who
Maul's
knew?
a talker.
So we brought some Maul art from back in the very beginning of his inclusion in Clone Wars, and I thought, now that we've closed the book on the character, so to speak, if we could go back in time to when George dropped the bomb on you that he was gonna bring Maul back from the dead.
Oh, yeah. To draw on a piece of paper or something one day, and then a year or so later to have it walk up to you and say hello is like, so I give a tremendous amount of thought to the costumes, and it's something that I think we were able to improve in part, especially on characters like Ahsoka. I think that, you know, knowing that so many people are out there wearing this costume, I'm like, well, let's look at this. I mean, this has to be functional. This has to be, she's a warrior. Come on.
Now, this is really where I want to go to the origins of the character, because we found this illustration. Well, hold on, let's see. Okay, obviously a retrospective of where she was and where she is.
This is like progressively better fashion choices.
Yeah.
That's what I call this.
But
by the way, if you want to know, the one with the white lights here is my favorite version. I love that costume. It's just, I was trying to do that type of costume for a long
They
time.
were literally a discarded generation because they served their purpose, and once it became clear how independent they could be under the guidance of the Jedi, Palpatine had second thoughts about their utility. So it's funny that Clone Wars ends up telling you that story of how the clones became individuals thanks to the influence of the Jedi.
One of the most amazing things that actually happened during this panel is, in so many words, Dave Filoni actually confirmed that the old man character with the white beard that we see in Return of the Jedi, it appears that character is now officially Captain Rex from the Clone Wars. He showed us this image right here of what appears to be an upcoming design for Captain Rex in the next season of Rebels. And if you have paid any attention to what he said in the past about trying to connect these two characters, it would seem that he's officially made that character canon. And so now we know that Captain Rex actually survives all the way to Return of the Jedi. So they definitely ended this panel with a bang. Dave Filoni introduced us to this clip from Clone Wars that has really never seen the light of day. And from what I understand, this scene actually did not make it into the live stream, which I guess makes sense, but I guess even if it gets me in trouble, I'll go on ahead and just post what I filmed right here in the video.
Audio up.
Sound?
I wouldn't be so hasty now, boy. Let them go, Bane. This isn't their fight anymore. Always fighting for those in need. That's a quick way to wind up poor or dead. And probably both. No more innocent people are going to die. All be locked up, all live in fear. Looks like the little insurrection has failed. Now surrender, and I'll let your friends walk away. I say, you give the kid his shot. So that's it. Just you and me then. Ogre Fetch. I guess it is.
So after that, Dave Filoni went on to say that his plan was, after this showdown, it would explain how Boba Fett actually got that large dent in the top of his helmet. So after leaving the animated panel with Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo, I made my way down to the behind the scenes stage to check out Doug Chiang's panel on the art and design of Rogue One. Now, it's not just the film side of Star Wars that I love. I actually really love the art of Star Wars, Doug Chiang's work especially. And as he explains in this panel, he got a lot of his inspiration from a lot of the original work that was done by Ralph McQuarrie. So he takes us through sort of his design process and shows off a couple of his designs from the prequel era, which are really gorgeous designs. And then he goes into how he always references Ralph McQuarrie's original art in what he does for even the most current films today. He took us through all of the steps they went through in designing K2SO for Rogue One and all of the different design phases that character went through.
It started out as an Imperial protocol droid, then became an Imperial logistics droid, and then finally ended up as an Imperial security droid. So all those things start to inform how we would approach the visual aesthetics of K2. We also pushed it pretty far as well, just to see, again, how far we can push the envelope.
And he sort of wraps up the panel talking about the design of the U-Wing in Rogue One and how his first designs really were inspired by military helicopters.
Smaller, and the two twin pontoons became wings, not straightforward. And I remember when Garrett saw this, he said, "Oh, that reminds me of Superman with his arms out when he's flying." And it was really great to hear that, because when a director can speak to a personality that he's looking for in a vehicle, and all the vehicles are characters, and they have to have personality, it's great because then that gives me a target in terms of, okay, I know emotionally what he's going for.
And of course, we had to wrap up day one of Celebration with our buddies over at Collider. Those guys are so awesome and so genuine. I couldn't believe it. Christian Harloff, for example, I ran into him at the food court and he had a tray of food in his hand, but he still took time to stop and talk to me, and I really couldn't believe it. Those guys, those guys are really an inspiration to me, and it was great getting to meet them face to face.
Like if you want to talk about sound, if you want to talk about what he did to sound, if you want to talk about ILM and what he did with visual effects. I mean, when you go throughout the entire genre of whatever the film industry is, George Lucas's fingerprints are on it. And you can never understand, and it just wouldn't have been the same if he wasn't there.
Mark, you've been known to tell a joke from time to time.
Not so much funny ones.
Well, that's what I was going with that.
It's the effort that counts, gentlemen.
But Warwick Davis, though, how about Warwick Davis? How great he was, like those little shots. Not only did he take at Anthony Daniels, about telling him his head was too big to get through the door, whatever, the big door, but the shot he took at Harrison Ford about the plane, and then Harrison rolled with it and laughed. But did you appreciate?
Warwick Davis did a monster job hosting this panel today.
So yeah, guys, more than likely, I think what I'm going to do with these videos is separate day one into part one, and then I'll combine day 2 and 3 into part 2. And if you followed along, you know what happened on day 2 at Celebration. All right, guys, like I've said before, the most important thing isn't what I have to say. The most important thing is what you guys think. So leave me a comment below and let me know what you guys thought about Celebration. And as always, if you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe. Ooh, The Last Jedi.